Welcome back to the Oxendine Law Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Jarrod Oxendine, co-host Christine Palmer. Say hi, Christine.
Hello.
And welcome to January.
I know.
Christine, you ready to do it again for another year? And I figured it'd be a great time to talk about Divorce Month, which is January.
That's it.
Divorce Month. And so you might be wondering why January? What makes this divorce stand out in terms of high for divorce filings? Well, there's some fascinating and intriguing social reasons for that, psychological reasons, and practical reasons behind it. So let's go ahead and break it down. All right, Christine, first of all, let's talk about why January. What would be some of the reasoning behind the timing that goes into waiting till January and basically into that overall trend? Obviously, the first thing would be people wanting to get through the holidays.
There's a lot of the sense of going to have to see the family and be together, extended family, social events. So it is sometimes easier just to hunker down, get those holidays out of the way, and not have that sort of looming over you at a time where you're supposed to be joyous. You're supposed to be, you don't want to be the person at the Christmas party bringing everybody down with the divorce situation. And when it's family, it's tough. Whose family do you visit? Where do you go? Do we tell them now? So it is a socially very awkward time between November and December when it comes to initiating divorce. If you've already done it, if you did it back in the summer, you're coasting by now. But to initiate that's a tough time.
And what's funny is you imagine people that are thinking about getting divorced and they're ready and they can't wait to pull the trigger, but they are just grinning and bearing it through the holidays, right? And you've got the in-laws that you might not necessarily like either. And you're having to spend time with...
You're like, I just liked them when I was happily married. I sure don't like them now that I'm unhappily married.
And you have to keep it all secret, right? You're not gonna take the kitty out of the bag,
right,
before January comes. So I always feel somewhat bad for those people that are actually just hunkering down and getting through the holidays. But I can certainly understand why they want to preserve that family unity, kind of not disrupt the holidays and wait till January to pull the trigger. Now, I think there's also some psychological reasons that would play into why January, right? So we're talking about starting a new year, new resolutions, the new me, right? Getting a new lease on life, getting your freedom, getting your independence, right? And so people see January as, the opportunity for the fresh start. It's January. Let me get this thing done as early as I can in the year so that I can have my fresh start, my new lease on life, my independence, my own access to my own money. I don't have this person controlling me all year long. I can get the custody schedule in place that I need, the parenting time schedule that I need. So I think there's a psychological component that plays into January.
100%. Like with it coming of starting fresh and that sort of thing. And then there is the practical component. Everyone knows the housing market is best in spring. So if you start this thing now in January, chances are by spring, if selling is something that's going to be on your agenda, we get it filed now. That's your 30 days to file your response. That puts you right on time for that prime spring market when it comes to selling. So there's those practical concerns that come into play as well.
Well, and also, I hate to say it, but I think it's true, right? And that's what we're doing here. We're spilling truth right on this podcast. But I think we would be remiss if we did not say that, unfortunately, probably some of the holiday strains may even contribute to January divorce filings. I mean, we all know holidays can be stressful. When you were a kid, oh my gosh, you loved the holidays.
Yeah,
I did. Santa Claus, Christmas. You're not paying the bills.
Right. Yeah, you get to see, and you get to see the grandparents you love, not the in-laws. You're right.
I mean, it's just a wonderland. It's just cherry pops and your elves are
right. 2-3 weeks.
That elf on the shelf, poor mom and dad, right? They're having to move that damn elf.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Every night.
Cannot imagine.
And oh my gosh, I've done it a couple times, I'll be honest. Like she usually does it on her almost time now. My kids currently, I've got a 13-year-old, I got a 12-year-old, and I've got a 7-year-old. 13, 12-year-old moved on from Santa Claus.
Okay.
13-year-old's been moved on a couple years.
Huh?
William, my middle son's been about 1 year. My 7-year-old Henry, he's all in.
Oh, he's still
in it
fully
to win it. And parents, you know what I'm talking about. If that elf does not move from one day to the next, I mean, that child gets up in the morning, runs downstairs like it's Christmas morning, and he tries to find where the elf has moved, right? And you have to make it creative. It can't be boring, right? The elf either has to be in front of the box of Cheez-Its and the Cheez-Its are spilled out all over the counter, right? Or, the elf is hanging from the chandelier or some funny thing, right? And sometimes parents drop the ball.
Yeah.
They're tired. They're stressed out. they forgot to move the damn elf.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself making up an excuse.
Yes. Now we're lying to our children.
The elf got caught in a snowstorm last night and he wasn't able to move to the next spot, right? All the crazy excuses you come up with.
His brother's wife's having a baby and he had to run back for
The point got sidetracked there for a second because I just think that's a fun phenomenon. This elf on the shelf thing. I made a lot of money from that concept. That's over the past 10 years or so that's come up.
It would have to be because I definitely I have no concept of it except when I started getting coworkers who had children of Elf on the Shelf. This is a fascinating concept for me.
That's it. But my point in telling y'all all about the Elf on the Shelf is that that's just an extra stressor, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're already in a situation where your marriage is not great for whatever reason, we've talked about, I think in previous podcasts, common reasons for divorce. But then you pile on top of that the stress
Holiday stress.
The holiday,
Financial stress.
Having to pay for
Health
everything.
stress.
Holidays are expensive. Christine, would you agree that sometimes people are over the edge and they file for divorce in January?
Sure. Yeah. There's just the stress factor. But then also, like you said, it just holidays leading into the new year, but holiday time as well. It's that's that time for reflection. And you really do sort of look back at the year that you're ending. And you're wow, 2024 is over. Where did it go? And when you look back and you're you're not really happy with all of the contents of that year, it can be really eye-opening. And then you've got the nostalgia of the holidays followed with the renewal of New Year's. And it's gosh, if I don't make a change now, 2025 is going to look just like that. And then you start to look back a little further. Dang, 2023 wasn't great either. 2022, I haven't been happy, years, and it sort of catches up with you at some point.
Well, it does, and here's the tip. I mean, look, honestly, obviously, we're divorce attorneys, right? I mean, if you get to that point where you need our help, we're happy to help you. We're not here, being a cheerleader for divorce. That's not what we're doing, right? If we can give you folks practical tips on things you can do to get yourself out of these pitfalls and prevent divorce, we're going to do it. And the scenario Christine just gave, where this has been building for years and years, and you don't do anything to change it, right? You just expect it to change on its own. It's not going to. So you can do things, right? I mean, you can realize what the stressors are between you and your spouse, and you can start to communicate with them about that. Try to get on the same page with them about that. Go to counseling. There's a lot of things you can do to prevent yourself from being part of the January divorce month, right? And we encourage you to do those things.
Yeah. What do we say? We always say we're improving families.
That's right.
Oxendine Law is improving families. Sometimes that means keeping them intact. Sometimes that means creating 2 happy households. Improving families is what we're here for.
That's right. So now there may be other practical considerations also for January. And again, we're talking about why January tends to be known as divorce month. But there's some financial considerations, right? So January means that the previous tax year has been wrapped up, right? So you can kind of get all of your financial planning done and all wrapped up for the previous year. You can get, all the final documents turned into your accountant to get the taxes finalized so that you don't have to figure out if you want to file, married or separately, right? I mean, you're going to file married most likely for the previous year because the year's done, right? And so you're looking January to start a new era of financial and tax planning. You're looking at January to start a new, fresh custody and parenting time schedule for the new year. So, I think from a practical standpoint, it makes sense just even from tax planning and financial planning aspects to maybe wait till January for some folks if they're towards the end of the year and they're thinking about divorce.
Right.
The last thing I would say is there's actually some advantage to potentially waiting to January as opposed to pulling the trigger in November or December when you're in the middle of the holidays. And that would be, it gives you time to plan, right? If you're thinking about getting a divorce in January, you should be using November, or maybe December, to go ahead and meet with your attorney. Keep in mind, in certain circumstances, should not just hire your attorney the day before you want to file.
Right.
I mean, we have folks that come and might hire us 30 or 60 days before they even file. So they can do some planning. They can start consulting with us. They can get a game plan in place. They can organize their finances, right? They can go ahead and start focusing on self-care practices.
Yeah.
Right? Because some people don't want a divorce. They're doing it because it's a necessary, as they have to. And they may need some self-care, some coping mechanisms and techniques that they need to maybe start working on with their counselor before they actually pull the trigger for divorce. So I highly encourage everybody all the time, and Christine, I know you do the same, whether you're filing in January, whether you're filing in December, November, any month of the year, it doesn't really matter. Get in with your divorce attorney early because that actually makes a huge difference
Of
on how
course.
your case can progress. It certainly gives your divorce attorney a lot more options and things that they can work with, as opposed to you rushing into the door with an emergency and having to go out and file the next day, which we can do,
Right.
right? But if you can avoid it, why do it?
Yeah, the outcomes are always better when we've prepared. Plus, divorce a lot of times is a financial decision. A lot of times it is a practical decision, but every time, no matter what, it's an emotional decision. So if you can get the advice and prepare yourself, your family, your children, if you have them for that, but most importantly, that preparation of yourself. I can't tell you how many clients I have walked in the door confidently telling me, I'm ready to file for divorce. Like, how soon can you file? Can we file it today? And we do. We push it, we get it done. And like 2 weeks go by, and there's this, oh my gosh, what have I done kind of moment where if you do it in reverse and let's talk it out and let's see what it's going to look like, talk through potential scenarios, get you in a place where you're really going to understand what life after divorce looks like before you enter a divorce process, the results are always going to be better. And not necessarily even just the legal results, but like the results for you, like your aftermath. You got engaged. You probably did a ton of wedding planning. That lasted for a long, long, long time. Planning. And then the wedding came. It's not like it was over. Then the marriage starts. And divorce is kind of the same way. So why you wouldn't just pull the trigger and the next day think it's going to be done? No, you're going to live a life after divorce. So just like you plan to live a life married together, you need to plan to live a life independently post-divorce.
Great advice. Welcome to January, Christine.
Happy divorce
Let's have a
month.
great year, and we hope you guys have a great year. Thanks for joining us today. And look, even though January may be known as divorce month, understand that we understand every case is unique. Every case has special circumstances. Everybody has individual needs, and you are best served to make sure you get in with your attorney early so that you can take the right approach to get the right support you need and the right guidance in this process. If you're thinking about divorce, make sure you consult with a professional that can help you navigate that process early. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. That way you'll get all of our episodes. You'll get notifications about those immediately as they come out. Take care. We'll see you next time.